The news has been talking a lot about President Trump's executive orders over the last few weeks. He has signed more than 60 of them in less than a month. Check out this graph from NBC. It shows the number of executive orders signed by modern presidents in their first 100 days. And as you can tell on the far right, Trump is way ahead of them all. And we still got about 70 days to go. With so much action in such a short amount of time, it can't feel impossible to keep up with all of it. But here on WRAL News at 7 o'clock, we're going to try our best to do that for you. And it brings us to the first installment of our newest segment. Order up! That's right. We are going to get after this stack of executive orders like a stack of pancakes, one bite at a time. And tonight, I want to talk about Executive Order 14196, better known as the plan for establishing a United States Sovereign Wealth Fund, a sovereign wealth fund. Kind of sounds like a bank account for a member of the royal family, but it's not. This is real. This is something that a lot of countries, in fact, have, these sovereign wealth funds. And President Trump thinks that we should have one, too. His order calls on the Secretary of Commerce and the Secretary of Treasury to come up with a plan within 90 days. They need to look at setting up the rules, what to invest in, and, oh yeah, how we are going to fund this in the first place. Got a couple of months to take care of it, guys. Get to work. Like I said, lots of countries, though, have some blueprints for these kinds of funds. China has one, the UAE, Singapore, Norway, Saudi Arabia, Australia, South Korea, Russia, Iran. A lot of countries have these. They're worth, some of them, billions of dollars, sometimes trillions of dollars. And it's not just foreign countries. There's actually a handful of states here in the U.S. that have their own sovereign wealth funds. Alaska, Texas, New Mexico, Wyoming, North Dakota, Alabama, Utah, Oregon, Louisiana, and Montana. Texas, for instance, they started their fund way back in 1845 using oil and land purchases. It's worth $56 billion today, and it helps pay for education and infrastructure in their state. Alaska, their fund is the largest in the U.S., worth nearly $80 billion. It started in 1976, funded by, well, you guessed it, oil there in Alaska. Alaska uses some of the money to give the residents there a universal basic income. They cut them a check for about $1,700 a year. They get it in the mail. Must be nice. Now, as you might have noticed, North Carolina isn't on that list. We do have a reserve fund and a state pension plan, but it's not really the same thing. That money can only be used in very specific places. These sovereign wealth funds are special, though, because governments use them to invest, sometimes in the private sector, and then they use those returns for just about anything that they want. Does that sound like a good idea to you? I spoke to the Director of Budget and Entitlement Policy at the Cato Institute, and she doesn't think so.
A U.S. sovereign wealth fund is a shiny object with no legitimate purpose or need in the United States fiscal context. Anything the federal government wants to accomplish, it can do so by going through Congress and authorizing spending for any particular program or priority.
She seems pretty convinced she's right, but there are a lot of people who are looking in the other direction. See, this is a really huge topic with huge potential upsides and downsides. Some of the proponents think that it could be the path for some financial freedom in some ways to help fund health care or save Social Security. Naysayers, on the other hand, think that this could be an overreach. They could have the federal government wielding power and influence over private companies in this country and abroad. I want to talk about this. I think it's important. Tonight, we took just a little bite out of that stack of executive order pancakes, but think of it as an appetizer. Let us know what you were thinking about this executive order or any of the other orders that have been signed. There are lots, as we said, to choose from. So, hey, if you got your phone out right now, I know it's in reach, send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. What executive orders do you want us to dig into? What else do you want to know about these sovereign wealth funds? Tell me what is on your mind. We'll talk about it together right here on WRAL News at 7.